What if I told you that a coin sitting quietly in an old collection, a forgotten jar, a family drawer, or even an ordinary box of coins could be connected to one of the most important moments in American history? What if the coin you are looking at right now is not just a simple 50-cent piece? What if the date on that coin is 1972? Before you spend it, sell it, or throw it into a box with other common coins, take a closer look, because the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is a coin that many people misunderstand. Some people see the image of President John F. Kennedy and immediately assume that every Kennedy half-dollar is rare. Others believe that every old half-dollar must contain silver. And some people see a 1972 coin and think it is automatically worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But the real story is more interesting than that. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is a coin born from tragedy, history, politics, American culture, and the changing face of the United States. Mint. It was created during a period when the United States was dealing with rising metal prices, changing coin designs, and enormous public demand for a coin, honoring a president who had been assassinated only a few years earlier. And even though millions of 1972 Kennedy half-dollars were produced, certain examples can become much more interesting to collectors, depending on their condition, mint mark, strike quality, and especially whether they contain an unusual minting error. So today, we are going to take a close look at the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. We will talk about its history, the story behind the Kennedy design, how this coin was made, why it is often confused with silver Kennedy half-dollars, what makes certain examples more valuable, what collectors look for, and how much a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar can realistically be worth today. And most importantly, by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look for before deciding what your 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is really worth. So take your coin out, place it under good light, and stay with me until the end. Because the difference between an ordinary coin and a collectible coin can sometimes be hidden in the smallest details. The coin in front of us. The coin we are examining today is a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. On the front, or obverse, we see the famous portrait of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy facing left. Around the portrait are the inscriptions: Liberty, in God we trust. And at the bottom is the date, 1972. The reverse shows the Great Seal of the United States. At the center is a powerful American eagle with its wings spread wide. The eagle holds an olive branch in one claw, representing peace, and arrows in the other, representing the ability to defend the nation. Above the eagle is a group of stars, and around the coin we see the words, United States of America, and at the bottom, half-dollar. This design is instantly recognizable to millions of Americans. But what many people do not realize is that the Kennedy half-dollar was introduced under extraordinary circumstances. This was not simply a normal coin design change. The Kennedy half-dollar was created as a national tribute. The tragic story behind the Kennedy half-dollar. To understand the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar, we must go back to November 1963. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas. The entire nation was shocked. Kennedy had been one of the most famous and influential presidents of the modern era. He was young, charismatic, and internationally recognized. His presidency had been marked by major events, including the Cold War, the space race, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. After his death, the United States government quickly began discussing ways to honor him. One of the most powerful ways to honor an American president was through the nation's coinage. The idea of placing Kennedy's portrait on a coin was introduced very quickly. The question then became, which coin? There were discussions about placing Kennedy on the quarter, but the Franklin half-dollar was also being considered. Eventually, the half-dollar was chosen. The reason was partly symbolic. Kennedy had served as president, and the half-dollar was a major American denomination. It was also possible to replace the Franklin design without creating a complicated legislative process. The decision moved extremely quickly. The United States Mint needed a design. The country wanted a tribute, and the Kennedy family was involved in discussions about how the president should be represented. The portrait was based on the work of sculptor Gilroy Roberts, who had already designed the Franklin half-dollar. The reverse was created by Frank Gasparo, who later became chief engraver of the United States Mint. Because of the national importance of the project, the design process was completed in an unusually short period. The first Kennedy half-dollars were struck in 1964. That first year is extremely important in American coin history, because the 1964 Kennedy half-dollar was made of 90% silver. The public demand was enormous. People wanted to own a coin bearing the image of the president who had been killed only months earlier. Many people saved the coins as souvenirs. Others removed them from circulation. Some families kept them for generations. As a result, Kennedy half-dollars from the early years became closely associated with American history and silver collecting. But by the time we reached 1972, the situation had changed dramatically. Why the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is not a 90% silver coin. This is one of the most important facts about the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. Many people believe that every Kennedy half-dollar contains silver. That is not correct. The earliest Kennedy half-dollars, especially those dated 1964, were made from 90% silver. Then, from 1965 through 1970, the United States Mint used a composition containing 40% silver. But the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is different. The regular 1972 circulation Kennedy half-dollar is made from a copper-nickel clad composition. This means that the coin has a copper core with outer layers made primarily of copper and nickel. The change happened because the price of silver had increased dramatically. The United States Mint could no longer continue producing large quantities of silver coins at the same cost. The government was facing a serious problem. If the metal value of a coin approached or exceeded its face value, people could remove the coins from circulation and save them for their metal content. This had already happened with silver coins. So the United States began moving away from silver coinage. By the time the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar was produced for regular circulation, the standard coin no longer contained the silver composition used in earlier years. This is why the date is so important. A 1964 Kennedy half-dollar and a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar may look similar at first glance. They both show President Kennedy. They both have the same basic design. They are both half-dollar coins, but their metal compositions are very different, and that difference can have a major effect on value. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar and its mint mark. One of the first things collectors check is the mint mark. The United States Mint produced coins at different facilities, and the mint mark can help identify where a coin was made. On the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar, collectors may encounter different mint varieties. The Philadelphia Mint produced Kennedy half-dollars without a mint mark. The Denver Mint produced coins with a D mint mark. The San Francisco Mint was also involved in producing Kennedy half-dollars, especially for collector products and proof issues. The coin shown in your photos appears to have no visible D mint mark near the date area. That makes it important to inspect the coin carefully. On the Kennedy half-dollar, the mint mark is located near the bottom area of the obverse, close to the date and beneath the neck area. However, the condition of the coin, lighting, angle, and image quality can make a mint mark difficult to see. Collectors should never rely only on one photograph. A magnifying glass and good lighting can reveal details that are almost invisible to the naked eye. If your coin is a 1972 Philadelphia issue, it may be a regular circulation strike. That does not automatically make it rare, but rarity is only one part of the story. Condition is another major factor, and with older coins, condition can sometimes make a huge difference. Why condition matters so much? Imagine two coins with the exact same date. Both are 1972 Kennedy half-dollars. Both were made at the same mint. Both have the same metal composition. But one coin spent 50 years in circulation. It was carried in pockets. It rubbed against other coins. It was dropped. It was exposed to dirt and moisture. The other coin was placed into a protective holder shortly after it was produced. The second coin may be worth significantly more. This is why collectors use grading systems. Coin condition is generally described using grades ranging from heavily worn examples to extremely high-grade, uncirculated coins. A circulated 1972 Kennedy half-dollar may show wear on the highest points of Kennedy's hair, cheek, jaw, and the eagle's feathers on the reverse. The details may become softer. The surface may show scratches, marks, discoloration, or contact damage. An uncirculated coin, on the other hand, has never been used in everyday commerce. it may still have the original mint luster. The surface may be much cleaner. The details may be sharper. But even among uncirculated coins, there are major differences. One coin may have heavy bag marks from contact with other coins. Another may have a strong strike and attractive surfaces. A third may have a special appearance that collectors consider desirable. This is why professional grading can become important for coins that appear. What does mint state really mean? Many new collectors believe that an old coin automatically becomes valuable simply because it looks shiny, but shine alone is not enough. A coin can be shiny because it was cleaned, and cleaning can actually reduce collector value. A true uncirculated coin generally retains its original mint surface. The coin may show natural luster. The surfaces should be examined carefully. Look for scratches, hairlines, dull areas, polishing marks, chemical discoloration, unnatural brightness. A coin that has been aggressively cleaned may look bright to the eye but can be less desirable to serious collectors. The best coins are usually coins that have original surfaces and strong detail. This is why you should avoid cleaning an old coin with household chemicals, toothpaste, metal polish, or abrasive materials. Cleaning can permanently damage the surface. If you think you have a valuable coin, preserve it exactly as you found it. The biggest question: how much is a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar worth? Now we reach the question that almost everyone wants answered. How much is a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar worth? The honest answer is, it depends. A normal circulated 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is usually not a rare coin. Many examples can be found for close to face value, especially in circulated condition. Remember, the face value of the coin is 50 cents. Because it is a common-clad coin, the typical example does not automatically have a high collector value. But this does not mean every 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is worthless. There are several factors that can increase interest. The first is condition. The second is the mint mark. The third is the presence of an error or unusual variety. The fourth is exceptionally high-grade preservation. And the fifth is the overall demand from collectors. A coin with an unusual mint error can be much more interesting than a normal example. A coin in extremely high condition can also be worth more. But viewers should be careful with exaggerated claims. Not every 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is worth thousands of dollars. Not every old coin is rare, and not every unusual-looking mark is a valuable error. The United States Mint produces billions of coins. The process involves metal strips, planchets, dies, presses, and high-speed machinery. Because the process is mechanical, mistakes can happen. Sometimes a coin is struck off-center. Sometimes a die becomes damaged. Sometimes a planchet has an unusual shape. Sometimes a coin is struck more than once. Sometimes the design elements appear doubled. And sometimes foreign material enters the minting process. These mistakes can create collectible error coins. But there is an important difference between a genuine mint error and damage that happened after the coin left the mint. For example, imagine a coin with a strange flattened edge. That could be a mint error, but it could also be damage caused by a machine, a vise, a hammer, or another object. A scratch across the surface is usually damage. A strange color may be caused by chemicals. A bent coin may have been damaged after production. Collectors must examine the evidence carefully. A genuine mint error usually shows characteristics consistent with the minting process. This is why serious collectors often seek professional opinions. What to check on your 1972 Kennedy half-dollar? If you have a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar, here is what you should inspect. First, check the date. Make sure the coin really is dated 1972. Look closely at the numerals. Sometimes dirt or wear can make a date appear different. Next, inspect the mint mark area. Look for a possible D mint mark, then examine the surface. Look at Kennedy's hair. Look at the cheek and jaw. Look at the lettering. Look at the date. On the reverse, examine the eagle. Look at the stars. Look at the lettering around the rim. Look at the edge. The edge can sometimes reveal problems that are difficult to see on the front or back. Also check for signs of an unusual strike. Is the design dramatically off-center? Are letters missing because of a genuine striking problem? Does the coin show clear doubling that appears to be part of the minting process? Is the edge unusually shaped? Does the coin appear to have an abnormal metal composition? These are the kinds of questions that can help determine whether your coin deserves further examination. The difference between damage and a real mint error. This is one of the most important lessons for new collectors. A damaged coin can look very unusual. A genuine error coin can also look very unusual. But they are not the same. Imagine someone takes a normal Kennedy half-dollar and presses it in a machine. The coin becomes distorted. The edge changes. The surface develops strange marks. To a new collector, it may look like a rare mint error. But if the damage happened after the coin left the mint, it is not a mint-made error. This is why professional coin experts look at the shape, pressure marks, metal flow, and location of the abnormality. A real mint error usually has a logical explanation connected to the striking process. The damage often has a completely different appearance. So if you discover something unusual on your 1972 Kennedy half-dollar, do not immediately assume that it is valuable. But do not throw it away either. Take clear photographs. Use good lighting. Compare it with normal examples. And if the feature appears significant, consider having it examined by a qualified expert. Why the 1972 date is still interesting to collectors. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar represents an important period in American coinage. The United States was moving away from silver. The Kennedy design had become one of the most recognizable coin designs in the country. The coins were being produced in large numbers, but the public relationship with the half-dollar was changing. In earlier decades, half-dollars were used more frequently in everyday commerce. By the 1970s, many people began using them less often. As a result, large numbers of Kennedy half-dollars were placed into drawers, jars, collections, and bankrolls. Some were never heavily circulated. Others were carried for decades. This creates a wide range of conditions today. You can find worn 1972 examples. You can find lightly circulated examples. You can find uncirculated coins. And you can occasionally find coins with interesting errors or varieties. This is part of what makes coin collecting exciting. You never know what may be hiding in an old group of coins. The design of President Kennedy. The portrait on the Kennedy half-dollar is one of the most famous images ever placed on American coinage. Kennedy's profile faces left. The design is powerful because it captures a recognizable image of the president. The words liberty surround the upper part of the coin. The phrase "In God We Trust" appears across the lower portion. The date is positioned at the bottom. The design is simple but highly symbolic. The reverse is equally important. The eagle represents the United States. The olive branch symbolizes peace. The arrows represent strength and defense. The stars represent the states. The design is based on the Great Seal of the United States.